not commonplace. This is legislated from the bench. Do you how have you dealt with that, and how have you combated that? What would be some recommendations that you may give persons who might be watching, who may seem to come into a situation where they feel like, okay, what this, you just legislating from the bench?
I've definitely experienced that and definitely dealt with that in the metro area here. Number one, the law is the law. The law is the law. And when I advocate for my clients, we advocate, we being my firm and our practice here, from the perspective of the law. There's plenty of precedent that our Supreme Court and our Court of Appeals have provided in the different areas regarding family law and making decisions on custody. We argue from the perspective of the law. There's statutory, meaning rules under the provisions dealing with custody and child support and visitation. And we represent and advocate from the perspective of the law. So when you have situations where there is legislation being done from the bench where judges are basically thinking that they're untouchable with the black robe, I don't have a problem reminding him or her that they're not. I'm not afraid to do that in of course, in the most respectful way. We always have a court reporter, and I always make sure that everything from our perspective, from my client's perspective, is documented from the realm of the law, because that sets the precedent from our perspective and the foundation that if we need to seek other recourse, there is other recourse. There is other recourse. And to ensure that it's not just because I just didn't like, the judge didn't like me, I just didn't like the way the judge, no, this judge was wrong and was biased because of X, Y, and Z. And I have dealt with that, and I've been very successful with getting orders set aside. And I'm not afraid to advocate for the client. When we take an oath and we pass the bar and we're sworn in, we're sworn to be zealous advocates. And that's what I do for my clients. It is what it is. Just because you are a judge doesn't, and you're not going to disrespect me either, myself or my client. And I don't mind having a record and having that on the transcript and available with a court reporter. That's very, very, very important. And like I said, we advocate from the perspective of the law. The law is the law. The law, you can't dispute that. The law is the law. If I cite the provisional statute, it is what it is. It says what it says. It means what it says. It's the law. And so, a lot of my opposing counsels, want to come in and try to advocate and take personal jabs and advocate from an emotional standpoint. That's cute, but that is not what we do in the court of law. Point blank. The law is the law, the facts are the facts. So you make sure that you make that type of presentation. And I think my background as a middle school teacher, I taught middle school in Atlanta Public Schools for 7 years before I became an attorney. That definitely helps me. If I can control 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds from going homes and bankhead courts, you think I'm going to be afraid of a judge or a jury? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Wow.
If I can entertain, we won't block schedulers. If I can entertain them for an hour and 30 minutes and not have any issues whatsoever in the 7 years I was in the courtroom, it was prepping me for my time now.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And oh man, and gosh, man, that's another nugget. I didn't know that about you. But I not only that, not only, but then I think you probably saw, unfortunately, you probably saw many kids, many households where there was some upheaval, right? And there was some, maybe they were disjointed, maybe, single mother, single father, what have you. And so you probably saw some impacts that maybe stem from that. Maybe you may have seen when they were together, whether they were affluent or they were married or what have you, common law, whatever. I don't really give a flip, but you probably saw some situations where one day they were together and the next day they weren't. And you probably saw, and so that probably helps you gives you a perspective on the impact that it has on these kids.
Not only did I see it in my classroom during those 7 years, but I saw it in my household, raising my 2 children alone. Wow. So, that was not by choice.
Okay. Gotcha. Go back. This is that's the 5 year.